right, welcome everyone. Today we're going to do what's called an accelerate session, which is my favorite session of the month. I get the opportunity to meet with an existing gym owner, and whilst there's so much theory and ideas sort of floating around the internet, it's always great to chat to someone that's on the tools and actually in the fitness industry. For today's call, I want to introduce you to Alex Blake. Welcome, Alex.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, very good. So for full disclosure, I've known Alex for many years. I'm friends with Alex's husband, Adam, and we went to uni together. But Alex has been running a gym, she just said, for 17 years down near Wollongong. Can you tell us a bit about like what were you doing before fitness? What was life pre-fitness?
Totally different. And full disclosure from me, I'm actually not qualified, so I don't run any of our classes.
Okay.
My work wife is Alita, and Alita is she oversees that component, and I more oversee the marketing, my member relationships, new member inductions, and I guess the admin side of things. Prior to opening, well, we initially actually started off. We opened a franchise. Some of you may have heard or remember it back in the day called Contours. It was a really awful logo of a woman that looked like Shira, and she had a big ponytail and was turned to the side. But prior to opening Contours, I was actually the publicity and promotions director for the Win Network, which is the regional affiliate of Channel 9 in the metro world. And I looked after all of their publicity and promotion, so television, radio, and their corporate arm and production side of things too. So initially, I wasn't actually going to work in the business. I was just going to be involved as a partner with the leader, but as everyone will probably attest and understand, the more involved you become in a business, the more active you are in it. I felt like there was no other option. I was also very unhappy in my current job, in the corporate job that I was in. It was a very toxic company that I was working for, and I now no longer have to deal with any of that. I get to deal with all of my amazing ladies each day.
Yeah, I love that. And like in that previous role, were you sort of out selling time for people to sort of advertise? Were you part
No,
of production?
no,
What were your
no.
sort of
So I looked
roles?
after basically promoting and publicising the network, looking after like the talent, dealing with local community organisations from a sponsorship perspective, big national organisations, partnerships with big national brands in regards to promotions. Community service announcements, so voluntary organisations. It was fairly widespread, but it was more, I guess, the umbrella was the promotion of the Win Network, its talent, and also its programs and produce that it had as well.
Yeah, good. So you're obviously based in the area. You've probably got some good like connections, network wise sort of thing, but then
Yep.
just had enough of corporate and thought, let's go and do something on your own. You said you went into like a franchise initially, and
Yes.
it's women's only. How do you like the women's only sort of model?
I love the women's only model. I mean, obviously, it does cut out half of the population from a membership and sales perspective. But, we've got a really strong culture here with not only our team, but also the members. Um, you know, Sometimes, obviously, having a big community of women, as many people would know, can have its issues, but we've always maintained from day one across our team and also our member base that, we just stamp any of that nonsense out along the
Nip it
way.
in the
And
bud. Yeah.
yeah, we've got a big, our focus here is a very strong community focus, both with our members and then outside. And I think that's our point of difference. When we first opened, so I'm based in Woonona, which is the northern suburbs of the Illawarra. There was one other gym here at the local RSL club, and in between us signing our franchise agreement and our DA being accepted through council, Fernwood opened 2 blocks up the road from us. Anytime opened half a block up the road from us. And since then, I would say we've had between 6 and 10 gyms open within a 2 suburb radius of us.
Yeah. Wow. And it's unsettling, isn't it? Like, even though I'm sure you're confident in your product, and even though you've got a great relationship with all the ladies, it's kind of tempting when something new pops up and they're doing, real discounted sort of foundation member rates and things.
Yeah. Yeah, look, when I opened the business, I was a very different age from what I am now. I was 25 when I opened the business. So, yeah, you can work my age out pretty easily from that. So, made a hell of a lot of mistakes along the way. But one thing I did learn early on was it's really important to stay in your own lane. And the times that I did get sidetracked by focusing on other businesses and what they were doing around me certainly was no benefit to me. So I learned that really quickly in that we are strong to what our brand is and what we offer. And if I did get too caught up in what other people were doing, then I'd lose my energy and my focus on my business and end up focusing on theirs, which is counterproductive, as I'm sure everybody's probably fully aware.
Yeah, it's something that I became aware of, that the equipment and the facilities were really easy to replicate, and a lot of the things that sort of made us unique, I didn't really need to worry too much about.
Yeah,
And that was the relationship you had with the clients, or the training the staff had sort of had. So yeah, that's definitely helped us to sleep at night as well, kind
yeah,
of, focusing on what we can control. Um, you mentioned that, like, you've gone from like a franchise women's
yeah.
gym, you've gone in and actually created your own brand. Tell us about your own brand, and what are the sort of insights you can share on that for anyone that wants to go down that track.
Yeah, so after Contours, we were approached by the master franchisor at the time to partner with them on a new fitness brand that they were bringing to Australia called Envy Fitness. Contours was obviously very American based. The branding was very American, and the technology, etc., that they were using. So they wanted to have an Australian arm of the business. So we partnered with them. This was still a franchise and launched Envy. Um, we learn a hell of a lot through being part of a franchise, and obviously had those support systems across a wide variety of aspects of the business. But I guess what we were sort of finding, probably around that 10 to 12-year mark was, we were paying huge franchise fees, and we felt that we could definitely do this on our own, and we were ready to rebrand and relaunch out. So we did finalize our final year of agreement. We broke away from the franchise and we rebranded, but we rebranded with the help of our members. So our name Soul Fit actually came about through a member promotion that we ran, and
Wow.
one of our members, they all submitted we ran a huge local competition to
Huh.
name our business, which was where Soul Fit came from. We obviously had the ultimate um, choosing of the name at the end, but that was how we got the community involved in the initial rebrand of our business. All of our branding now involves our members. Alita, the other half of me. If you come to the front of our studio, we've got huge wrapped, all of the front of the studio is wrapped with local imagery of our local beaches with Alita. And likewise, I do the same with all of our marketing now too.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you had this sort of courage. You obviously had a very successful gym while you were franchised, and for that brand, they probably weren't, didn't have a big sort of future in Australia, so it made sense to go. But it's still kind of scary.
Yeah.
Anything you learnt along the way that you sort of would give as a tip to someone that was considering do it, or like potential challenges or things to consider?
I think obviously what's really important is if you're moving away from a franchise, you need to have your systems and your processes in place. Planning is a really big part of how a leader and I run our business. We plan on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, and then annual basis. And I think obviously the framework of a franchise provides a lot of that from a security perspective. So being planned and organised, but having your systems and processes in place, I think are obviously really important. But it gave us a lot of freedom. And to be honest, like we were a bit cheeky when we were in the franchise because we used to do a lot of things that we weren't supposed to.
Okay.
Um, and, we were given a bit of autonomy on that based on the fact that we had partnered, but it got to the point where we wanted to do more and we weren't allowed to do that within the franchise framework. So it allowed us, and, I'm talking, other options of classes, outdoor
Yep.
training,
Yep.
a wellness arm of classes, etc. So yeah, it did allow us to be able to open up the doors to all of those new opportunities as well. But I definitely think your processes and your systems need to be in place because those things can sometimes seem really simple, but aren't when they're not provided for you anymore.
Yeah, I found that. I had a franchise in Mona Vale, and when we sold years later, we decided to open another gym, which was independent. And I'd taken for granted that we were number one on Google. I'd sort of taken for granted that you got a little trickle of inquiries through head office or some type of like, fitness CRM. So I didn't have to choose my, clothing supplier or anything like that.
Yeah,
Um, After sort of working all that out, like you, I sort of did love there was a little bit more freedom when it came to sort of marketing and stuff. So a few sort of pros and cons, but I love that tip.
yeah,
Hey, tell us about your current model. How roughly like how many members do you have?
yeah.
What would a member sort of pay if they came in and signed up today?
Yeah. So we're women's only. We're a small boutique studio, so we're not a big mainstream gym. I'm always really upfront about that. I believe that's our point of difference as well. Um, uh, Probably to my detriment at times, we're very personally involved with all of our members.
Hmm.
And that's something I've had to work really hard to put boundaries around. But as a result, I think that's part of our success too. We're open 7 days a week from 5 a.m. till 10 p.m. We offer a fully functional gym. And then we've got over 40 group training classes a week that you can choose from. Big variety of strength is probably one of our main focuses.
Yep.
A big array of strength classes, hit boxing, then we run a whole wellness arm too, mat Pilates, yoga, meditation bar, and we've got an outdoor license site with our local council too. Um, we're sitting at the moment on 442 members. We ideally would like to grow by another 40 members this year. That would be our
Right.
ideal rate. But beyond that, I would find we would be at capacity. Our classes are capped. We have a booking system where members can book in for their classes, etc. And as many people would know, it's that fine line between wanting to be full, but also having the options for people to be able to still come along. And that's feedback I get from a lot of members that come and join me from other places is they just can't get into classes. And
Mm.
it becomes frustrating when you're paying for a membership and you can't access what you need to. Our memberships are fully inclusive. So we don't operate whereby you join on a base level and then you add classes. Classes are included. We also have a creche here as well that's staffed and operated
Wow.
Monday through to Friday, 9 till 12. Um, if you were to walk in off the street today, our 12-month membership is $56.95 per week, and that includes access to all of our classes and unlimited use of our infrared sauna as well. If you were coming in on a flexible membership, you're looking at $69.95 per week.
Yep.
All the same inclusions, but obviously the term length is different.
I really like that you're sort of packaging, a wellness sort of pricing structure. I like that. I think it's difficult for anyone to come in off the streets and kind of know, will I like that? Is that something I should include? I love that you're
Yeah.
actually including classes as well as gym access. I love that they've got recovery included in that sort of
I'll
packaging.
be really honest with you though, up until 4 weeks ago, sauna and Pilates was an add-on. And
Yep.
we did find that for the exact reason that you just mentioned, a difficult uptake. So what we have done now is restructured our memberships that it's included from the get-go. And to be completely honest with you, people haven't batted an eyelid. So then we've
Yeah.
managed. So from a price perspective, just to give you an example, the both memberships were $10 less
Yes.
without the inclusion of Pilates and sauna. Members
Hmm.
could add that on. So they could add on unlimited Pilates per week for $10 and they could add on unlimited sauna per week for $10. So
Yeah.
ultimately that was an upgrade of $20 per week. What we've done is combine the two for $10 per week and just made these other membership prices with everything included moving forward.
Yeah, I think it makes it easier for staff to present the options because
Yeah.
there's fewer of them.
Yeah.
And I think it's great that you're actually packaging them together to encourage them to actually participate in a bit of everything. Because how else are they going to know if they'd like it
Yeah.
or they'd sort of want
Yeah.
to do it? Um, yeah, I really like that. At the moment, I've got a membership at Virgin Active. One of the main reasons I pay to go there, which is probably 15 minutes past like my house. I probably go past 15 gyms on the way. but I go there because it's got a sauna. It's got a like a plunge pool,
Yeah.
and yeah, I must pay, I don't know, $50 a week or something like that. But I could pay $10 a week to go to a local sort of crunch or something, and I know how to use the weights. So there's definitely a market for people that are interested in recovery and overall wellness as opposed to just kind of gym access. And sounds like you've sort of tapped into that. Well done.
I think too, it's also, obviously it's a market for men and women, but I do think for the demographic that we focus on, there is a real need for a focus on the mental health side of things. And also we deal with busy mums that get very little time for themselves. So if we can help them incorporate one session of wellness into their programming each week, then that we're going to see the benefits for them as well.
Yeah, it's good. I've shared with our network, I think, in the past where I've had a personal training sort of option on the price presentation and then gym access, like maybe $30 on top of it. And we were about 50% conversion rate for gym access in the group classes. And we just packaged it all together and it went to like 95% because it was just
Yeah.
sort of packaged in. So yeah,
Yeah.
I've had a very similar sort of experience. I love your price point. I love that you're not trying to compete with the crunch fitnesses of the world. At the same time, it's pretty good value compared to maybe a personal trainer or something like that every week.
Absolutely. And we also have as part of our memberships, it's called our Reboot program. It's in a personal accountability program. So every Friday, any new member personally hears from me. So I reach out to them every single Friday, not via phone call, via text message, but it's
Yep.
personalized to them from my personal mobile. And
Yep.
I get them to come back to me by the end of the weekend with what their booked, planned sessions are for the following week. And I've had great success with that.
So the concept there is with personal touch, we're trying to get them to start a good habit to actually get the
Correct.
booking in.
Yeah. So whenever a new member joins with me, I always sit down with them and we book their first week in together. And obviously, I induct them into our member portal. But then after that, they hear from me every single Friday. And I personalize it. So I'll go through and look at their attendance. I'll have a look at if they haven't come, then obviously I can reach out and what hurdles are they hitting, where are they coming from, etc. It's very time consuming.
Mm,
It's quite a laborious task, but I have had really great success. And I've found that that first month, as many of you would know, is really crucial in setting up good solid routines and habits. And often, many men as well, but I'm only referring to women here. It's many of them walk through the door, and if they're not doing a class, they don't know what to do, and they
yeah.
get that gym anxiety where they go on a treadmill and they walk, which is
Yeah.
awesome, but you can do that outside. And as everybody knows, research and weight training for women is so incredibly important, and if they can do it in a safe environment with a qualified instructor that's fun and they've got the energy of other women around them, and I can help them build that into their week and help them grow their confidence to do that, that's where I find that program works really well for us.
Yeah, it ticks so many boxes for what we're trying to achieve. I think one is how it starts is how it ends. Like if they feel there's support, someone they can actually chat to, if they know what to do, if potentially they feel like their energy improves or their measurements improve in that first month, that's the opinion they sort of form about you, sort of
Yeah,
moving
that's
forward.
right.
So
Yeah.
I think although it's time consuming, I think it's a tremendous use of resources to onboard really, really well.
And it also is a great opportunity then that if those members have come on at a flexible rate, they're usually pretty keen to move over to a 12-month rate very quickly in those first
Mhm.
couple of weeks based on their experience.
Yeah, so good. Chrissy, Josh, Nathan, if you guys have questions, go into the chat. I've got a whole bunch of stuff I'm sort of lined up here to chat to Alex about, but I'm also conscious you might have a question that relates specifically to your brand. Go into the chat and let me know. Is there anything you'd like to ask myself or Alex on any of the topics we're sort of covering as we go along? I'm going to go into the chat and have a quick look.
Yes, I
Ah,
do it for every single new member and I do it for as long as they need me to. Ultimately, the goal is, and I pre frame them on this, the ultimate goal is I want them to be independent without me. And I'm really big on the sales process in pre-framing them on everything. So, I speak to them about what the outcome is and what the expectation is from my end. And the responsibility from them is that I want to hear from them every week. And I don't want to hear, oh, I think I'm going to come in on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. No, I want to know what sessions you've booked in for. And if I go to the member portal, I'll see that you're booked in. But then I also talk to them about the fact that ultimately I want them, I'm helping them with this process now, but ultimately I want them to get to the point where they don't need me to do it anymore
Yep.
and that they can do it on their own. Of course, I can jump in at any point. We all know people lose their mojo along the way for a variety of reasons. But yeah, ultimately I want them to do it on their own. So generally what I sort of do once I've got someone in a really good routine after 6 to 8 weeks, I'll then cover off with them and say, you're doing an amazing job. Do you still need me? I'm happy to help, but I'll be guided by you. And they'll generally go, yeah, no, I'm really good now. And
Wow.
then I'll obviously preempt them that if they've got any problems or if they fall off the bandwagon, then they can jump back in with me at any times. I do get some that say, no, I love you contacting me every week, keep doing it. And of course, I'm happy to do that. It's not a problem. But the ultimate aim is obviously you don't want to be doing it for them forever.
Yeah.
You want to be doing it so that they can become self-sufficient and independent.
Yeah, I think it's a great process and one that is obviously teachable or systemized. Like you could, I'm thinking for Chrissy that's asked the question in New Zealand, it could be Gavin, your manager that sort of reaches out. Let's say you had 30, 40 new members in a month. It doesn't actually take that long to reach out to sort of 30 people via text and say, hey, which sessions have you booked in for next week? And I think it just demonstrates that you really care. I love the fact as well that they just feel like they've got an ally. They know without any, like, if any issue arises, I can just go and speak to Alex. And yeah,
Which
it's a
has
lot.
its downfalls as well, like last night, it's fairly like last night I received a text message at 2:30 in the morning and another one at 3:30. So,
Yeah, wow.
that has its downfalls too. But I've opened myself up to that. So that's where I spoke before about putting boundaries in that,
Sure.
if somebody contacts me at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, I don't open it. I wait until I'm back at work to respond
Yep.
to them, etc. Just so that, and I understand everybody's lives are at different. Person that contacted me last night is a doctor, so I know they would have been on shift work. That's fine.
Yep.
But yeah, I also have had to put boundaries in regards to that too, because it is my personal mobile.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. You've probably tried to call me Alex or maybe Adam has. I actually turn my phone off at 5 o'clock and I know there'll be people that have reached out, but it's not usually anything that can't be handled the next day.
Yeah,
Often if it is 10 o'clock at night or 2 o'clock in the morning, it's kind of difficult to do any real changes anyway. So
yeah,
I encourage them to reach out at the same time. I'm trying to teach them that they don't need an immediate response if it's like at a family hour. So
yeah,
good tip. Hey, I wanted to ask a question. You said you've had this business with different names, like it was a
yeah,
franchise and now it's like an independent brand, but it's been 17 years, which is an enormous effort, longer than a lot of people are even married for. And you've
yeah.
had this like business marriage with a leader for
I
that
do.
long.
Yeah,
Um, Tell me, like, what makes a business relationships like succeed?
yeah,
What are the things you got to kind of avoid? I'm sure there had to be tension. There is tension all the
yeah.
time. I've
Look,
had a business partner, but what advice could you give there? Because you've survived
um,
17 years.
Look, I feel really lucky that I've been on this journey with a leader, and I really don't think that we would have done it without each other. Interestingly enough, we met through our husbands. We weren't friends ourselves through our own networks prior to it. Alita was actually working for the master franchisor when we met, and we used to run a couple of evenings a week together. And she was opening the franchises up all around the country. And then thought, well, why can't I do it? She was a PE teacher initially, then moved over into the corporate role for 12 months, and then we decided to open a business together. Um, I think one thing, and this isn't always going to be, possible for everybody, but Alita and I were at very similar stages in our life from a family perspective too. Um, you know, Little fun fact for you, actually had my first and her second baby. We delivered them on the same day, different hospitals, business suicide, yes, but we managed to make it work.
That's
We did both
fascinating
return to
that they've
work
aligned.
very quickly. But yeah, so yeah, that we were at similar stages in life. My strengths complement Alita's weaknesses, and her strengths complement my weaknesses. I'm more
Mm,
of the emotional one out of the two of us. She knows I'm the talker, and I'll need to talk things through.
yep,
I know with her, she's not the talker. She doesn't hold a grudge. Um, We've had things we've disagreed with over the years, absolutely. We've never had a major disagreement, but there's been
yep.
things we've disagreed with. She knows that I'm someone that needs to communicate. So if there's something going on, she knows I'll need to talk it through, whereas she doesn't necessarily need to do that. And I know
Mm,
that about her. And it's also supporting each other where we need to. Our big goal was one of the things we wanted to do when we did have a family, and she's got 3 children, I've got two, is to be able to take some time with them in school holidays, to be able to attend, the things at their school. And that's really important to me, and it's really important to her. So we've supported each other throughout that as well. Her dad's very, very ill at the moment and in hospital, and I've jumped in, and taken on her load this week so that she can go and do what she needs to do with her family. So when I say I'm lucky, I feel I'm really lucky in that sense, because I know sometimes with sole traders, they don't necessarily have that. And I know if Alita and I ever moved into another business again, we'd definitely do it together, because we've managed to make the marrying of it work really well. We've always been honest and upfront. There's never been any niggles, in the sense that if we have a problem, we talk to each other about it, we deal with it, we move on. And that's probably where I think it's worked well.
yeah, that's super valuable. Um,
And we've
like,
both had the same level of drive for the business too, because I think that's where people can get unstuck. Like if you've got someone that's, working more than the other person, and they start to feel, um, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, resentful for the fact
resentful,
that,
yeah, because you feel
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah,
I'm doing more work than the partner, but I'm taking half the profit or something.
exactly.
Yeah,
Maybe that is luck as well, that we've both always been at a really equal level in regards to the energy and the efforts that we've put into the business too. And that swings and roundabouts, like EG at the moment. Alita's got a fairly significant personal family situation going on. I wouldn't expect her to be putting in the effort that I am this week, but
yeah.
I had a significant family situation going last year when my brother fell ill really, really quickly, and I had to take on the care of one of his children for a long period of time. And then she picked up the pieces for me then. So, it's that
It's an
balancing
amazing
act.
team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've written down a few things, guys. Feel free if you've got questions relating to partnerships, whether it's a business partnership or whether it's sort of partnering up with a manager in your gym. But I think these same things kind of apply. One was complementary skills. You've actually got slightly different ways that you can both contribute. The one that like because I actually had a business partnership for 6 years, and we were similar to you in that we weren't sort of best friends going into the business, but we knew of each other. And I think that kind of helped in some regard, that it
Yeah.
wasn't kind of too friendly social, but it did have a business feel to it when you went to work. The other thing we did is we had like a shareholder agreement. We put in like clear roles as to expectations around number of hours like each person would contribute. And um, I heard a quote yesterday in a podcast, and it was relating more to a marriage, but it said it was something along the lines of don't marry someone that you couldn't go through a divorce with. And what I think they're sort of getting at was, if your gut feel tells you that, like, if it went bad or it went sour, if your gut feel tells you that that person is going to be a freaking nightmare when it
Mm.
starts to go bad, well, it's probably not a good idea to kind of start. And I thought that was kind of a useful tip as well, that, yeah, complementary skills, clear roles, but yeah, the swings and roundabouts, you're obviously looking after each other like a team would. So
Yeah, and it
well
is
done.
very clear the things that we look after. Like I oversee all of the sales side of the business. Alita oversees all of our cancellation and freezes. She deals with them personally. She looks after all of our numbers. She's our number cruncher.
Yep.
If I want to do something and I want to spend money, that's why I go to Alita, and
Yep.
she comes back to me on that. She oversees all of our classes, and the trainers and the training side of things, and I look after all of the member management and whatnot as well. So it's pretty clear what we both look after.
Yeah, that's a great exercise to do, guys. If you're watching this live or even the replay, is if it's you and a business partner or you and a manager, is actually divided up on a piece of paper and look at who's covering which role. I think it's really important that we take responsibility for the roles we have. I think it's okay for the other person to contribute ideas or potentially support that lead person. But that definitely improved us. We had more. I think friction in the first kind of 12 months in our business partnership because it wasn't exactly that clear. Eventually, I just sort of took over sales and marketing. He took over sort of day-to-day operations, trainer development. When we sort of got really clear and stayed in each other's lanes,
Mm.
that sort of it just meant that I think before we got clear on it, he felt like I was like second guessing him, or I felt like he didn't trust me with how I was doing the marketing or something. And it's generally you just like something that you can contribute or help, but it definitely helps to have clear roles.
Yeah.
So good. Guys, if you have questions, please pop them in the chat. I'm conscious of your time, Alex. I know I've got you for sort of 10
That's okay.
minutes or so more. So we've spoken about like the different services. One of the things we didn't mention, I know that you've sort of had work with NDIS clients. And I guess I
Yes.
was interested to know what are the things you've sort of done that's like helped you to develop that side of your business?
Yeah, so I have one of my or part of my team, and she is an independent sole trader within our business. So I've got an in-house exercise physiologist
Mhm.
that operates within our studio 2 days a week. I'm actually in her office right now, and we work really closely with her. So we are an NDIS provider. We provide not only to individuals needing individual care plans, but also from a gym membership perspective too. So that's really important to us for a number of reasons. From an inclusivity perspective, it's been really important to us, and it has allowed us, to provide services for people within our community that are on the NDIS. I've got one member out there right now who's been with me for years and years, who has MS, and she comes in and has individualized sessions with our trainers once a week. She's just one example, but yeah, we've probably got between 10 and 15 of our members that are currently on the NDIS, that we then obviously claim back through the NDIS for their services with us. It is quite a process. It's not a walk in the park. It does take a fair amount of work, but it's definitely something that's beneficial on a number of levels.
Yeah, we registered to become a NDIS provider. I guess we just haven't done a lot in terms of letting people know that we're an
Yeah,
NDIS provider or
yeah.
shared examples. Have you found there's kind of websites or networking or anything that sort of helped people to come and find you?
Yeah, look, I think it's definitely helped. So, our exercise physiologist, she's also involved with a lot of local GP networks as well. So I think getting involved where you can with your local GP network. But then there's also care providers. So, there's all your local care providers, that because you've obviously got individually managed plans, you can self-manage them, they can be managed through a care provider. So it's also, I guess building up those relationships with the different providers within your local region as well, so that they know what you do and that you are available to help with those services.
Yeah. We have a client at NDIS that receives NDIS funding, chooses to come and see us. I think he would do 2 or 3 personal training
Wow.
sessions per week. He has done for the last couple of years. And he goes through a company called Plan Protect. And once we sort of knew that they were, they play that sort of support role, we sort of reached out to them to try and, further that relationship and make sure they knew of us if there was anyone
Yeah,
else that was looking for a
yeah.
facility in Sydney. So, I think that's a really good tip. So just to recap, guys, NDIS is like government funding that a bunch of the population can qualify for different reasons. It could be for mental health, it could be for
Mm.
physical disability, but essentially they get a little, I guess, funding in different areas of their life. So they might have funding for to help them take care of the garden. They might have funding for their fitness. They might have funding for other areas of their life. And often they just have it sitting there and they don't really go and use it. And they're only using it for, food preparation or something. And yeah, if you can sort of remind them that you're covered. There's a question in there from Nathan. Did you register your NDIS for Soul Fit, or did you just get the trainer to register individually?
No, I did it through Soul Fit.
Yep. Yeah, we
Yeah.
did the same. So we registered the gym, Nathan. Hopefully that answers that question. Very good. And it as you said, it is a fair bit of work to set it up, but it's kind of
It
cool if
is.
someone gets
Yeah.
funding to do a premium level service for a year, a couple of years. I'm sure those 10 to 15 NDIS participants that you look after contribute,
Yeah.
well to the culture and stuff as well.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Yeah. Yeah.
So good. Um, Your one of your strengths is building community, and I'm thinking of a bunch of different stuff that I know that you sort of do. What in your own eyes, what do you feel like is like been successful ways to sort of make it feel like an actual community rather than just swipe tag access, use the leg press?
Yeah. So there's a couple of different areas. I'm really big on providing opportunities that our members can get involved in from a local charity or organisation perspective. And I know that seems really self-explanatory, and I'm sure everybody does it. But I find that people are inherently good. Well, I believe they are. Most people are inherently good and they want to do good for others, but they may not have the networks to be able to do that, or they may not have the means. So I'm always looking at different ways that I can support our local community and marry that up with our gym community here as well. So I try to do something different every sort of 6 to 8 weeks. So, as an example, I've just finished underwear drive for our local homeless hub. They were screaming out for new, obviously, underwear
Wow.
for women within our homeless community here. So I ran an underwear drive here over a 2 week period. And I try to do different things like that along the way. We've got a local Bellambi neighbourhood centre, which is in a fairly low socioeconomic area here, but it's not far from the gym. They have an open food pantry where families can go. So prior to that, I ran a drive for them. I know they might seem really simple, but it's something that I feel on a regular basis just allows people to get involved, whether they have the financial means that month to buy one pair of undies or one can of food, etc., etc. We also run twice a year big retention-based programs. So we run a big team challenge over summer. It's called our summer squads. We team up with a local business here called Locomo. I think Steve knows the owner, Kate Boyle. It's an
Okay.
activewear business here.
Yep.
She brands it, provides all of our prizes, and we
Wow.
group all of our members into teams, and we run a massive 4 week free challenge over that summer period to keep them engaged and work on retention. And then we run a very similar winter version as well. We then run a series of other individual challenges, fun day, pop-up sessions, etc., throughout the year. So we just make sure we've got different interesting things happening. We just ran a line dancing pop-up class for ours. We've got a really strong seniors following here
That's
too.
hilarious. I could see you
They
just pumping it out.
they loved it. So yeah, we've got a really well, they're called our Golden Girls. And we've got a really strong midday. So we've utilized that quiet time of the day. But we've got a really strong following of 60 plus in that middle of the day period.
Yep.
That also centers around the socialization aspects of fitness. So yeah, look, it's nothing different that I'm sure other gyms are doing, but we do have a plan so that we make sure these things do happen, even simple down to, weekly coffee catch ups after classes.
Mm.
Our line dancing pop up last week with dinner afterwards. It's not rocket science. There's nothing new that other people aren't doing. But we do look at doing things that center around our members and what's important to them and the demographic that we obviously. So just to give you an idea, our core demographic is mum with 2 kids, sort of from the age from about 28 to 45. Our next biggest demographic is that 45 to 65. Then it hits the younger bracket up to sort of that 28 mark, and then the 55 plus as well. So we've got quite a breadth of members, but we market based on those demographics as well. So Yeah,
It makes sense. Like I know when we've done seminars and things in the past, you've got a certain demographic that want to know about hypertrophy and supplementation. And then you've got another part of your demographic that want to know about lower back pain and mobility so they can play golf
yeah.
or something like that.
So we've got a
Um,
huge focus at the moment on perimenopause and menopause,
yep.
exercising during and supporting women during that process. We've just launched an 8-week program called Empower, and we had an information night about that a couple of weeks ago, and we're finding we are having a huge amount of inquiries for women in that age bracket that are going through either perimenopause or have hit menopause, and needing to incorporate exercise back into their life. So again, yeah, we ran a free seminar the week before last within our local community that went through all of that with a local EP and a herbal naturopath.
I'm scribbling down heaps of notes. I hope you guys following along are doing the same. Just to recap, my question for Alex, they're known for having a really strong community, and I think a lot of gyms use the words community a little bit too sort of frequently when really there's not much about it that sort of says interaction and fun and sort of teamwork or engagement. But she's given examples how every 6 to 8 weeks, she'll try and connect with like a local charity. We did the same thing in Sydney where we did something with youth off the streets, which was close. We've done stuff. I think people, if it's a charity that they can relate to or connect to or feel like they're making a difference. What is it like? One of the 6 human needs is contribution, and I think they want more than just arriving at a facility. They like to be able to feel like they can sort of give back. The other one Alex said is the culture comes through things that are like retention driven, whether it's a cross promotion with like a clothing provider to do like a 6 week challenge or something in summer, pop up ideas, line dancing, coffee catch ups. I love all that type of stuff. Do you sort of form a bit of a calendar or do you just sort of
Yeah.
decide each quarter?
No, we've got an operations calendar that we work
Yep.
from.
Yep.
That's just layered across our other calendars in
Yep.
Google. So we work from that, right down to at the moment, I'm working on gifts for our local primary schools for their Mother's Day stalls, which obviously is coming up in a couple of weeks' time. We've got World Yoga Day coming up in June. So my trainers come to me with some great ideas surrounding that. We run a pink week in October for breast cancer awareness, but we always make sure that we combine education in those things as well. And that's where
Mm.
Tracy, my EP, she comes in from an allied health perspective too, which is always really beneficial.
Yeah, well, I think particularly for those people that are just opening their gym, you tend to sort of focus on the design of the logo and the uniforms. You're hoping that everything sort of looks nice, like equipment wise, and that the classes are sort of have high attendance. But once you're sort of settled and you're up and running and you've got a bunch of people on direct debit, I think it makes a lot of sense to think about engagement, think about things you can be doing to entertain. We're on school holidays at the moment, and yeah, if you don't have a bit of a plan for the kids, they obviously get bored and they start to demonstrate signs of sort of being bored or impatient. And to be honest, it feels like our members are like that sometimes as well. So I love that you're constantly looking for ways to engage them and provide more than just a facility. That's going to be really hard for the competitor to replicate across the road.
Yeah, thank you.
So good. I've got one last question for you. I'm trying to choose from my little list here. What's one of the most successful marketing campaigns you've done? Why do you think it works so well?
Uh, Definitely the most successful marketing campaign that we have done is when I focus on a particular demographic and I talk to them within the marketing. So, mums, I'm a mum, I'm a busy mum, I run a business, I've got 2 kids. My husband would 100% agree that I'm the glue that holds it all together, but I'm usually last in the pecking order when it comes to my time.
Mm.
Not that he's not supportive of that, it's just the way that the world runs for us. So, yeah, my most successful marketing campaign would be when I actually speak to the market in the language that they identify with. I've moved away, I don't do any deals or offers or anything like that. I focus on talking to the member that I'm wanting to attract. And I look at ways in which I can identify with them. And if I personally can't identify with them, then I talk to other members that can, and I use their language and ways in which they would speak or communicate to identify. So, yeah, I haven't had to reduce, you know, I haven't put reductions on membership prices or
Yep,
anything
yep,
like that. I don't offer free trials. I do have open weeks, which I'm
yep.
about to launch another open week soon, which I'll tie in with Mother's Day. So I do have open weeks, and I do offer a free class session if someone would like to try it. But I don't do any, 14 days for free or anything like that anymore. I just purely market directly to the member demographic that I'm looking at, but by far the most successful one would have been, I ran a 30-day mum reboot program.
Yep.
That was an all-inclusive 4-week program that then effectively rolled onto a flexible membership afterwards.
Mm,
And I could not keep up with the amount of leads that I had coming through. They dried up eventually. Obviously,
yep.
that's going to happen. Things are going to fatigue. But yeah, the amount of women that contacted me and said, I read that ad and I thought you were talking about me.
I love that. I think sometimes we, as gym owners, we put too much emphasis on what's the deal or what's the sort of shiny object that'll just get people to stop what they're doing and go and join a gym. And in reality, I think that the language choice and the ability to sort of see something in your feed on social media or get something in your email where you go, are you feeling time poor? Are you struggling to get it all done? Are you sort of struggling to get rid of that sort of stubborn belly fat that you maybe haven't dealt with? That the sort of language that thinks the same things they're thinking. I think that makes a lot more sense. And
And I
um,
also make sure that my marketing to them isn't always about selling. So I make sure that they receive multiple emails from me a week. Might be a
yep,
recipe, it might be a photo of something really cool and fun we've done at the gym. It
yep,
might be, a workout they can do at home.
yep.
But I make sure that they're hearing from me regularly, so that then when they do receive an email through about an offer, I'm not just coming to them cold with an offer. They've had
Mm.
a lead up, and I'm sure everyone on here would know as well. It's really regular that I'll get people that go, "Oh, I've been checking you out for the last 6 months. I've been watching all
Yeah.
your socials and I've been seeing all your emails come through," but they need to be ready to make that decision. So if I'm on there in the forefront of their mind through everything I'm doing, community, emails, etc., then eventually when they're ready, they'll come to me, and it won't be about the discount or the offer. It'll be because they've seen what we do and they've obviously built up trust with what we do.
Yeah, I remember seeing data. Dean Jackson, like a former online marketing specialist, he was saying that roughly 50% of people that inquire will buy something, but they just don't do it all in the first week or the first day. So they often join your email list or they're following you on Instagram, but it's not for 3 months, 6 months, 18
Yeah.
months until they actually go, you know what, I should do something about it. And you're trying to I guess, invest into that emotional bank account. You're trying to have the know, like, and trust where they go, you know what, now that I'm ready to go and join a gym, where would I go? Of course, I'm going to go to the one who's been providing some good education, who's been contributing to the local community. I love your process rather than sort of spending heaps on, online ads to make it all about the offer. It's more so about getting people in the door, and that 30-day onboarding has got so much touch, so many sort of so much support and encouragement. It's pretty hard for someone not want to stay.
Yeah, and look, don't get me wrong, I absolutely do pay for marketing through Facebook. That's where I spend the majority of my money. So I absolutely do still use that. But the organic leads are obviously really important too, because
Sure.
I can no longer advertise through my Soul Fit page. I've been permanently banned for no apparent reason that nobody can tell me. So if that happened to you tomorrow, how would you survive?
Yep.
Like, you can't just rely on that, obviously. So now I have to advertise through a dummy page that I've set up because, so I've got two, which is very frustrating. I can't get any answers as to why. I've been chasing it now for 18 months, but we soldier on and come up with another solution.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And look, it's the same for Gym Hub. It's actually really common. I would say 50% of the gyms we work with at some point have been blocked with no feedback from
Yeah.
Facebook as to why, or Google. Google's kind of similar. Um, we've been able to keep our like normal Gym Hub sort of public facing page with all the posts, all the interaction, all that's still going. But the one that we actually run the paid ads for has to go through a separate one that we had to set up at one point.
That's
Um,
exactly what I've had to do. I'm banned for
yeah.
life, so I can't
So
quite work
not
out why,
not
but
the end of the world because you can still play on, but it's
yeah,
frustrating, and no one tells us about these little time-consuming sort of challenges that we face along the way.
yeah,
Alex, you have been wonderful today. Thank you so much for your time, but
pleasure.
also just the full transparency. I've scribbled down pages and pages of notes. You probably can't see it on my screen, but it's man, what an amazing business, and congratulations on what you and a leader have achieved. Like 17 years is in itself a massive achievement, but to have such a strong local community and your own brand, I'm so proud of you, buddy, and I appreciate you sharing with our network.
Thank you. And I guess also to be completely honest, it's not always rainbows and lollipops. I still have nights where I lay awake at night worrying about my business. And but then I guess it's what do I do about that? Like what's the next step that I take to overcome that? So yeah, I guess I just want to be completely honest in the sense that yeah, we have got a really successful business, but not every day is a rainbow and lollipop type of day. And we
Mm,
definitely still face our challenges. But I think the big difference is we go, okay, well, how are we going to overcome that challenge rather than let it suck us into the vortex?
yeah.
What am I going to do to make that change so that that doesn't happen again, or so that I do feel more empowered and I'm not going to lay awake at night worrying about it?
Yeah, it's so true and encouraging, hopefully, for anyone else that's following along that's having a tough week, or maybe it's been a tough month or a tough year. Sometimes it's that problem solving and that yeah perception that you just got to find a way, find a solution. So
Yeah.
so inspiring. Thank you so much again for your time. We'll let you go.
Pleasure. Thanks,
Thanks,
Steve.
Alex. Have a great day. See you, bud.
You too.
Bye.